Hi, folks. My name is Muller, the old bumblebee at Mercy for Bees. Thank you very much for joining us for this talk about kindness. I'm hugely honored and privileged to introduce Wendy Lambourne to you. Wendy is probably known best for a book called Legitimate Leadership, which is also the name for the organization she started a few years ago. The book is available on Amazon, should you wish to go and look for it there. Before lockdown, she traveled around the world consulting at global organizations about leadership. And I guess we're quite lucky to have her here in the country so that she can talk to us. But more importantly, she's also my friend and has been for many years. She has taught me wonderful lessons, and it was for that reason that I asked her to open this series of talks about kindness. In normal circumstances, I guess we would have been at the pub at Muller Swart Hotel, but today she's with me in our virtual studio. So welcome, Wendy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Muller. And this is certainly cheaper than the Melrose Arch, but I do hope one day we can go back there.
Right. So let me start with a curved ball. What does tilting at windmills mean?
Right. Right. Well, if you Google it, tilting at windmills means attacking imaginary enemies. But actually, it doesn't really mean that. It means pursuing romantic and ill thought out actions which have little, if any, success as a likelihood outcome of doing this. Okay. And, 25 years ago, when I first really started with this whole legitimate leadership thing, we, my colleague and I, when we first used to approach organizations, we were literally laughed out of the boardroom. Now, that suggests that we got to the boardroom. Very often we didn't get that.
Right.
When they finally entertained us, we got this kind of response from the boardroom, which was, what? You're saying we shouldn't pursue our self-interest? Well, how the hell else am I going to get my self-interest met if I don't pursue them? And we said at the time, well, actually, the best way to have your own interests met is actually to pursue other people's best interests. And the reason why is when you look after other people's interests, their natural instinctive response is to want to give back. Okay.
Right.
Anyway, they didn't buy that idea 25 years ago. And, I'm happy to say that sort of events have shown that pursuit of self-interest, unbridled pursuit of self-interest, gets you to a very bad place. I mean, it brought the globe almost to full financial collapse in 2008. And we all know that the jury's out on whether this wholesale take that we're doing as human beings is going to end up losing us a planet to live on.
Right.
So 25 years on, I'm happy to say we don't get laughed at anymore. The question is, so how do I do this?
Right.
This seems like quite a hard thing to actually do other people's best interests.
Right. Okay. So what is legitimate leadership?
Right. Well, what is legitimate leadership? And I think kind of how is it different is possibly one way of asking that question. And really, I think what distinguishes this particular perspective on leadership is a belief that as a leader, no matter where you sit in the hierarchy, if you like, you stand or fall on the basis of a single criterion. And that criterion we call intent, or if you like, motive. And let me explain what I mean by that. If we look at the conventional view of management or leadership, if you go to an average manager and you say to them, so, what's the job? what are you here to do and for what purpose? The response you get is, my job is to get results out of people. And I think that's my job because that's what you measure me on and reward you for. Okay. Now, anyone who thinks that their job is to get results out of people, the fairly obvious implication of this is this person seen to be a giver or a taker? Clearly, from a motive point of view or an intent point of view, this person is seen to be a taker. Mm-hmm. And you don't solicit willingness and giving in others when you're in the relationship with them to take.
Right.
So this perspective says actually your job isn't to get results out of people. Your job is actually to be in the relationship with your people to give to them. And this giving is not vague and it's not arbitrary. It's actually quite specific. It's a giving of two things. And importantly, it's a giving of self. The first is a giving of care, which means essentially having a genuine and sincere concern with the individual as a human being, not a human resource. And the second give is the give of growing the individual. In other words, enabling the person to realize the best in themselves. Okay. Now, we came to that conclusion, Muller, by actually asking people a very interesting question, which was, okay, who is this person that you report to that you would go the extra mile for? And yes, the answer is I'll only go the extra mile for somebody who's actually in the relationship to give, not to take. And here was the interesting thing, universally, people say, and that is somebody who cares for and grows me. Right. And, you know, this is as dramatic as saying you ask someone who's illiterate and shovels rock for a living, 2 kilometers underground, a South African gold mine, they say care and growth. You ask someone who is the CEO of a global business, that person says care and growth. And so this is where the penny dropped. Care and growth are actually universal criteria that we hold or universal expectations we have of anyone in authority. It is what makes power legitimate.
Right.
And if you think good parents care for and grow their children, good teachers do this, good bosses at work do this, actually good governments do this. And we don't want to go there.
Perhaps we should have a glass of wine before we have the next question.
Let's stick with something that we can actually get our minds around. But what the legitimate leadership framework is therefore arguing for is, and this relates back to your theme of kindness, this is not a change in style of leadership. It's not even a change in behavior. It is a change of intent. And if you like, that sits in the heart. It's a change of heart that we're trying to effect here.
Now, with your client base and their acceptance of this perspective, have you had much success with this? And what kinds of successes have you seen in business if people have this change of mind?
Yeah. I mean, Muller, how can I put it? The effects can be extraordinary. Okay. And, you know, we say implementing a legitimate leadership framework doesn't impact on the result directly, but properly implemented, the framework increases legitimacy. In other words, the number of leaders that actually have the willing following of their people. It increases trust in management. It increases employee contribution. I mean, you just get far more exceptional contributors and far fewer poor contributors. And the final thing it instills in organizations, and it's an elusive thing in today's world, is accountability. In other words, it increases people's ownership or taking of accountability, and it also enables leaders to do the flip side of this, which is to hold people accountable.
Right.
And legitimacy, trust, contribution, and accountability has got to be good for business.
I agree with you.
Hmm.
So how does one lead in a crisis like the one we have right now?
Yeah, right. One of the things we say when we sort of introduce the model to people is, you don't have to do anything to motivate people. All you have to do, or all you have to be, and it's not a small all you have to be is the kind of person that people are motivated by. Okay. In other words, the project is you.
Right.
So, what leaders should be doing in a crisis, actually, first and foremost, is looking at themselves. And you're totally in control of yourself, obviously. And, I like to think of the crisis as a golden opportunity to polish one's own intent.
Right.
Because if your intent is tested in normal times, it's tested tenfold in, obviously a crisis situation. Okay. So maybe just one other thing to lead on from there. So, what do leaders need? If you had to say, what are the must-haves for a leader in a crisis? I think there are two things. And we're back to the issue of the heart again. Leaders that are revered in a crisis are leaders who have a soft and a brave heart. In other words, it's compassion and courage that's really needed in a crisis.
I have a visitor here.
I know, I'm just seeing
Can
it.
you see? Yeah. Right, and here's my last question then to you. How does kindness express itself in the legitimate leadership framework?
Yeah. Muller, I think kindness is at the core of this framework. Okay. And, kindness is in short supply, sadly, amongst leaders in organizations. And, it's not kind to use people as the means to the end of producing a result. It's not kind to basically ignore people's needs and not genuinely listen to people and have concern for the hardships that they are facing in this COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah.
It's not kind to take all the glory. It's not kind to make yourself big by making other people small. So I think it is really about bringing back humanity into the organization, which is really what I think good leadership is all about. But we shouldn't confuse kind with nice.
Certainly not, yes.
Yeah. So in other words, and maybe this is the final point on this, is sort of saying, care and growth is tough love. Okay. And,
Yes.
perhaps a lovely, perhaps little story to finish with. There is a bank in Savannah, Georgia, which has stunning performance and results. Every single quarter, it gets better and better and better. So these consultants pitched up because, you always get consultants when things are bad because they think they can flog their wares, or good because they think they can pinch your ideas. And they went into this organization, they went to the CEO and they said, what is the secret to your immense success? And he said, love.
Really?
And yeah, love. And these guys were really stuck because you can't put love into a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, but don't take my word for it. Go into the organization, ask whoever you want, come back and tell me what they say. So they came back and they said, it's true. Everyone we asked, why is this organization so successful? They said, it's love. In other words, we really care for each other. We look out for each other. We support each other. And they said, but we're somewhat puzzled. And he said, why? He said, because though people said this, everywhere you went, on every wall, you got something that was like 100/0. What does that mean? And the CEO says, oh, no, that means 100% responsibility, no excuses.
Right.
They said, well, so how does that fit with love? He said, well, I forgot to tell you, it's tough love. Okay. So caring and growing people is not for sissies. You don't enable the best in people by being nice to them. But that's being kind.
Wendy, it has been an honor to talk to you as always. Thank you very much. If anybody is looking for you, would very much like to be in touch with you, I'm going to put your website address on the screen. There you go. And I sincerely hope that you will have an enormous success, which you absolutely deserve. Thank you very much for making the time to talk to us on this side.
Muller, thank you. And I do want to say I can't wait to see some of the other series on kindness that you are putting together. I think it's a fascinating topic and really good for you to do this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have a wonderful team on my side, and we are running our organization very much within the ambit of all the wonderful lessons that I've learned from you over the years. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
You Take too. Care.
Bye-bye.